Hello, welcome to episode 15 of the Barbarian Philosopher podcast. I'm your host, Dawna Gonzales, and I'm joined with a special guest today, Dawna Gonzales of the Mat Therapy podcast. Dawna, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right, thank you. So I'm really actually very excited to talk to you today. You have, in my opinion, kind of a unique thing going on with your podcast. Before I get into that, can you, just for the listeners who maybe aren't familiar with you or your show, kind of give the theme of your podcast, how long you've been podcasting?
Sure. Okay, I'll give you a background about that, just who I am, and all that kind of good stuff. So the podcast is called Mat Therapy, and it's me and my friend Becky Dominguez, who both purple belts under Eddie Bravo at 10th Planet, and the podcast is just about combat sports and jiu-jitsu and a woman's perspective from it, and we try and have as many female guests on as we can, but we also have a lot of UFC fighters and competitors and people who are really, into the combat sport. So it's just that. It's just two ladies' perspective on the combat sport community and heavily influenced by jiu-jitsu.
Awesome. And I'm glad you brought up specifically the female perspective on it, because that's one of the things that I really found refreshing about your show, is that, one, just in general, I don't have any real statistics in front of me, but it kind of seems like there aren't as many female podcasters, and especially not in the realm of combat sports. That's pretty badass. That's really cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no question. Have you found there to be any obstacles or maybe reaped any benefits being a woman in a predominantly male-dominated space?
Have I done any benefits to it?
One more time, please.
Your question is, have I found any benefits to it?
Either benefits or obstacles. Have you found it to be any different, or there been any unique experiences that maybe are specific to being a woman podcaster in combat sports?
Sure. Well, I'm not just a podcaster. I haven't had any. Okay. Well, I'll tell you this about podcasting. I think it might be easier for us to get guests on our show because we're two ladies. I think people really like that perspective on it. And so when we reach out to fighters, people we're not maybe personal friends with, it is easier for people to be like, oh yeah, two, the show hosted by two ladies, I'm in. That definitely, I think, works in our favor. I have had a couple of interesting experiences because I also do color commentary.
Okay.
And I'm one of the color commentators for the U of MMA, and I've done some other promotions. And over the years, I've been on several internet shows and kind of talking head discussion shows about MMA. And I feel like, as a woman, I do have to prove myself a little bit more. Most people will take a man's opinion just at face value. I'm sure he must know what he's talking about, or blah, 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 blah. Whereas I kind of have to show that I do know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But once I do, I think that people are like, oh, yeah, you're cool. Especially once I'm look, I've trained with this person and this person, I've been around since this time, then people are like, oh, okay. At a very minimum, I'm a super fan with a really good understanding of the sport.
Okay, fair enough. I listened to a couple episodes actually in preparation for this, and I really enjoyed your interview with the mindset coach Jeff Jordan. I found that very interesting.
Sorry about that. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. I'm very much so into kind of the mental aspect of things, kind of the meta game, as they would say, and I felt like he gave a good insight into some of that.
Yeah, I think he has a really good perspective with hypnotherapy. I'm a huge fan of hypnotherapy, and I did a session with him after that podcast, which was really good. But yeah, I'm with you. I think mental is such a huge part. You're a fighter, right?
Yeah, I've done 2 smoker amateur fights, MMA, same thing, 2 Muay Thai, and a small handful of little local no-gi Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments.
Okay, so the mental game is so much more. There's so much we can do to prepare our bodies for competition, but if you don't have your brain in line, your body is certainly not going to listen or not going to perform at its peak if you're psyching yourself out. So the mental part of it is huge. And, going back to the question you asked me earlier, I think that being a woman, we do spend a lot more time focusing on the mental game because, for a long time, not so much now, but I started in combat sports almost 20 years ago.
Oh, wow, okay.
When I first started, it was boxing. I learned to box at Wild Card under Freddie Roach and all of his coaches there. And, people were still making a distinction between female fighters and fighters back then, and male fighters back then. And then when I moved on to training at an MMA gym and training with jiu-jitsu fighters, it was like, yeah, men are making money in this sport, but there's no money for women in the sport, and there's definitely not a place for, girly women in this sport, and, all the women who are competing are just, fall into a certain category. And then Gina Carano came along and kind of changed everybody's perspective on what fighters look like. So from the very beginning, every coach I've ever worked with has been like so much about the mental game. It's like, hey, you gotta figure this out for yourself. You're small. You're gonna get your ass kicked, and you're gonna have to find a way to fight through that to get to the part where it's rewarding. When I first started doing jiu-jitsu, there were no women training under Eddie. And he was like, look, here's the truth. For the next 2 years, every single time you step on the mat, you're going to get your ass whooped. And so I did. And I did every time. I got my ass whooped. We didn't have a fundamental program at that time. And it was really just me asking questions and kind of figuring my way out as Eddie was teaching all this high-level advanced stuff. I had to figure out my way through the fundamentals. And the mental part of it was a huge game, and luckily I've had amazing training partners and amazing coaches that have worked with me that I guess I've been lucky to have the mental part be a part of it the whole time. Nice.
There's a lot there. I want to come back to a point, but you mentioned specifically in MMA a female fighter, but not only there being kind of some difficulty or some judgment on female fighters, but specifically feminine acting or looking female fighters. What's your take on the little controversy that came on when Paige Van Zandt did that Reebok commercial? She got a lot of hate for being too cute or too sexy.
Yeah. I've always been on team do you. Like, if that works for you, then go for it. Paige is utilizing the tools that she has, and one of the tools that Paige has at her dispense is her look. She looks like a Barbie doll. She also happens to be an amazing fighter. But I can't imagine anybody who is in Paige's shoes not utilizing all of the tools she has. That doesn't mean that somebody who isn't as pretty as Paige should get penalized for not being Paige.
Right.
They should definitely be judged on their merits and their fighting ability. But as we are seeing with the current show that's going on between Mayweather and McGregor, fighting is not just about fighting anymore. That's what happens. We all, wanted to see this sport expand and grow so that it's mainstream. Well, part of admission to being a mainstream sport is now the fighters have to have the entertainment value that comes with it. So I think Paige is doing what anybody in her position would do. I don't have a problem with if sexuality is how you relate to the world and how you sell yourself. That's okay. Like, that's your thing. Do it. And if you also want to come in and beat somebody bloody and knock them out and get your hand raised at the end and still do both of those things, who is anybody to tell you you can't have both of those things going for you?
Yeah, I find it very interesting that chasm is kind of there with the female fighters, because you don't really have that with the men. Like, you can have kind of the clean-cut, nice guy, GSP, or what's his name? The blonde dude, the young blonde kid. I can't think of his name right now.
Sage Northcutt, yeah.
Yeah, you can have Sage Northcutt, or you can have Charles Crazy Horse Bennett or Nick Diaz or some other, like, I'm the bad guy.
Or Joel Lozon, who looks like he's been in about 4,000 fights.
Right.
So my answer to that is, hey, welcome to being a woman. This is the kind of dichotomy bullshit that we have to put up, and that's why I'm personally, I don't roll like that. I'm on team women's empowerment. So if being a tomboy and celebrating how masculine you are is how you roll as a woman, do your shit. If, you know, being super girly girl and wearing makeup every day and wearing high heels is how you roll as a woman, if that makes you feel good in your skin, you're going to already have a hard enough time not feeling good in our own skin. So whatever works for you, that's cool, and I'm going to be fans of personalities and people who I like, and I'm just a fan of women in the sport, period. So I try and see all aspects of all of that, and I'm a fan of all of them, and I think all of it's okay. You know what I mean? Nobody's telling Raquel Pennington that it's not okay to, like, be, you know, very, like, kind of masculine in her demeanor. Like, everybody's okay with that, so we've got to be okay with the Paige Van Zandt.
Right. Right. No, that makes perfect sense. So.
And it's so, you know what I mean? Like this, hey, it's not so friends, it's show business. It's not just a fight game. We're all paying those pay-per-views to watch the show of MMA now.
Right. It's what gets asses in seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So you've been with Eddie Bravo now for some time, I think, and I'm at 10th Planet. What made you choose jiu-jitsu in particular, and then what made you settle on the 10th Planet system in specific?
That's a good question, and there was no conscious decision on my part. So, honestly, if it had been any other jiu-jitsu coach, I probably would have started training there. So, here's what happened. I was training at Wildcard doing stand-up and boxing. And then a couple of years later, my brother called, and he's like, hey, there's an MMA gym in Hollywood. And at the time, Randy Couture was associated with Legends MMA, which was where 10th Planet was housed at the time. And Randy, this was, 2007? Mm-hmm. And so, 2007, 2008. So, you know, Randy was the UFC god at that time. And so my brother called me, and he's like, hey, there's a gym in Hollywood. Randy Couture trains there. You've got to go in. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in. So the next day, I walked in and joined. And I knew nothing of the sport. I knew that I liked boxing. I've been a boxing fan my whole life. And I knew that I liked kickboxing because I had trained a little bit with Rick Rufus in Phoenix. Like, just a couple classes. My brother trained under him. And I knew that I really, really liked the sport. And it was fun. And I liked the tactile, like the hardness that comes along with fighting and the adrenaline rush that comes with it. So I walked in, I joined, I started doing all the Muay Thai classes, and all I really knew of Eddie was he's the dude that caught after Muay Thai. And people would tell me, oh, like, he's famous, and I'm like, that long-haired guy with tattoos, and they were like, that. I'm like, okay, whatever, I don't know what jiu-jitsu is. And he's one of the guys showed me how to do a single leg, and I'm like, I am never going to need this information in my life, but thank you. Seriously, I was like, I have no interest. And then one day, me and one of the other girls were just hanging out after class, and she goes, hey, Eddie, can we take your class? And he was like, yep, get on the mat. And that was my introduction to jiu-jitsu, and from that moment on, I just kind of liked hanging out with that group of people. So I would show up to class every day, and they would teach me things. And so I just kept hanging around. And so my entire perception and introduction and knowledge of jiu-jitsu is really filtered through 10th Planet. I admittedly am very ignorant to the rest of the jiu-jitsu world. To me, Eddie is jiu-jitsu. He's my only coach I've ever trained under, and everything that I know about the sport has been filtered through him.
Okay. What are some things about Eddie Bravo people might be surprised about? Like, most of us, we are either exposed to Eddie Bravo through, like, the Joe Rogan podcast or through, some kind of commentary as just somebody who kind of spends time with him and knows him on a more personal basis. Is there anything that the average person who's maybe peripherally familiar with him might be surprised about?
Eddie, who he is on those shows is very much who he is in real life. And he doesn't put off performances for anything. He does. He's on, like he's Eddie on 10 when he's on the Rogan podcast or when he's doing a seminar, when he's speaking in front of other people. So that is definitely an exaggerated form of his personality. But what you see of Eddie is truly who he is. And I think it might surprise people to know that he is a lot more thoughtful. He knows when he's, for lack of a better word, he knows when he's trolling everybody. He knows how to get people riled up.
Okay.
And he knows how to get a crowd riled up. You know what I mean? So, but he's an interesting guy. But he is very thoughtful. If you go to Eddie and you need to talk to him about something, he's a very smart person. His brain doesn't work like everybody else's. I've said this for years, which is why his jiu-jitsu is so amazing, because Eddie's brain doesn't work like the rest of us.
Okay.
He is on the 10th planet. That's legit. That is a real thing. So that's why he's so creative and cool. And he has a good heart. I got nothing to say, anything but good things to say about Eddie Bravo, because I love him, and I've been with him for so long, and he's my teacher, and he's my friend, and, I guess I maybe just see a different perspective of his personality than most people. However, it's the same personality that everybody sees. He is the same guy. He doesn't put on fronts to anybody. What you see is literally what you get from that dude.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
You mentioned some of the stuff about your training in specific, and before I get to that, I meant to ask this question earlier. On your show, have you had a favorite episode or favorite guest yet that you might, someone who hasn't heard your show, like, go check this one out?
Yeah, okay. Let's see. I think recently my favorite show is probably Ilima McFarlane, who is a Bellator fighter, because she's hilarious and we have so much fun. She let us come to her house at 11:30 at night. She was down in San Diego, and it's a long story, but basically we were like, we're not going to get there till 11 o'clock. She was like, let's do it, come over. And so we just got a podcast sitting in her living room in the middle of the night, and she was lovely.
Nice.
Let's see, Damian Maya, who is probably one of the first people that I've had on that I'm also not friends with in some aspect. Like, I'm strictly his fan. That was awesome, because he is just such a nice person, and he's such a legend in the sport of MMA and the sport of jiu-jitsu, that is probably because I was such a fangirl during that episode.
Awesome.
And then, I can't, Kanaka Lorenza.
Yeah.
You know who that is? Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly who that is.
Because he is who he is, and that is a legendary podcast in my opinion. Let's see. I love everybody that we've had on because they're all my friends.
Right. Yes, it's hard to choose which, what's your favorite kid?
Exactly. Yeah, they're in my opinion, they're all awesome.
Okay, fair enough. I'm glad you mentioned the Damian Maia podcast. That was one of the ones I watched. And that's a perfect segue into what I want to talk about next, because during that podcast, you guys spoke about women's self-defense, and specifically jiu-jitsu in regards to women's self-defense. My mouth doesn't want to work. Excuse me. Specifically, jiu-jitsu in regards to women's self-defense. So let me ask you this. You teach a self-defense class. In your take, how does jiu-jitsu fit into that?
I personally think that jiu-jitsu is the perfect form of self-defense for women. I actually just had a private lesson to a woman today who has no martial arts background. She's actually a burlesque dancer, and she got referred to me through a friend. And we talked a little bit about it. Here's why jiu-jitsu is so perfect for women. I talk about this in my classes. I have anybody in front of me, because the beauty of jiu-jitsu is you work from worst case scenario situations. Mm-hmm. You work from the ground. You work on your back. You work from already being in a bad place. It's not like if a dude is going to attack you. So Eddie has a joke, but it actually applies. He always says that rapists don't box, they wrestle.
Right.
It's not like some dude is going to square up with you and be like, oh, let's go, let's do this. No, here's the truth. The truth of the matter is, most women who are sexually assaulted are assaulted by people that they already know. So there are those instances of strangers jumping out of the bush attacking you, and we do need to be prepared for those situations. But the matter of fact is, it's going to be somebody that we know we're probably going to be a little bit inebriated, and that's when assault normally happens. The beauty of jiu-jitsu is I don't have to strike with you. I don't have to overpower you with my muscle. I can take advantage of you making a mistake, and I can get myself away from you. I can also put myself into a situation that shuts down the situation without having to hurt you, because there's still a psychological factor that somebody's attacking you if you know them, that it's hard to impose violence on them if you're not trained, like heavily trained in it. Do I think that a female fighter could like fuck up a guy? Of course. Do I think some women could physically fight a guy? Absolutely, 100%. But I'm talking about like in a general sense. Most women do not like to be violent towards other people, and jiu-jitsu gives you the opportunity to shut down a situation, control somebody else's body, get yourself safe, or put them in a position where they can no longer hurt you without having to hurt them.
Yeah, that's an excellent. That's a really good point, actually. One of the things also, and this kind of ties into the mental aspect of things we were talking about earlier. A big part of self-defense is a comfort with violence, or just let me take that back. A big part of fighting is a comfort with violence, and one of the things that kind of irks me when you see a lot of women's self-defense seminars, or just self-defense seminars in general, is it's a lot of, he does this, you do that, he does this, you do that, he does this, you do that. Okay, you're good to go. Go out into the world and go be, a superhero. But realistically, if you're, some vegan soccer mom with like your coexist bumper sticker and your meat is murder shirt, and you're just sitting there doing your mom thing, and then here you have a guy who's a innately violent person, somebody who maybe grew up in a rough way, who's comfortable and very at ease hurting people. Mentally, there's a process of getting used to enacting violence on somebody, and I really dislike seeing self-defense seminars that may teach he's going to grab you here, then you're going to do that, and then you're going to headbutt him, and you're going to knee him, and then he's going to just fall over and be done, without addressing that. And one of the really cool things about jiu-jitsu is it allows you to in a relatively safe way practice going full out at full aggression and kind of tap into that side of yourself if you're not accustomed to it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've had so many conversations with ladies about, like, it's not practical. Punch him in the eye and I'm punching him in the nose, kick him in the nose. Yeah, that's not as easy as it sounds. But I do really like what you said, that you have to be comfortable with a certain level of violence. I've never really thought about it that way, and I like how you phrased it. I actually had a theory that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, that combat sports makes you a more peaceful person, especially men. Because so much in our society, especially with guys, and like really masculine guys, is about suppressing that animal, masculine, testosterone behavior. We've got to behave, somebody, because we all can't run around just being maniacs all the time, because then society doesn't work. So what we have to do is ask these guys, we ask them to be ultra masculine, and then ask them to suppress it and behave without any kind of an outlet for it, except for those lucky ones of all of us who get to go in and beat each other up for 2 hours at a time. That's where that therapy comes from, because, after the most spot for our life for 2 hours, you can't walk out of there and be like, I'm Commander, you just cut me off in traffic. You know what I mean? Like, you just brought all that aggression out of it, and once you know how to fight, you don't want to fight on the street. You know what comes with that, and you also have nothing to prove. It's like, I don't need to beat you up because I already know that I can. I get no pleasure out of beating kids up. Why do I need to beat you up?
No, that makes sense, and I actually agree with you. This is something I believe me and my co-hosts have spoken about on our show before, which is, like, we're wired evolutionarily for certain things, and for the majority of our existence as a species, men in particular had to run around with sharp sticks and stab big things to death so we can eat. You know,
Right.
we had to fight off the neighboring tribe that wanted to come over the river and take the women or the children or the cows or whatever the hell it was that the beef was over. And you evolve a certain propensity for that if that's what the species had to do over a long period of time. And I completely agree. Modern society, especially in that context, is kind of antithetical to what we're wired to do, and it's important to kind of have that outlet to get some of those things out. So I think you're dead on with that. I think you're right on with that.
Thank you. I really like that word too, antithetical.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good word.
Thank you. Get my thesaurus on. So
yeah, I think that's why combat sports is awesome. You know, it's better than therapy. We get to go touch each other. How lucky are we? We get to go. We get to go like fight death.
yes.
You know, and beat each other up, and it's all good. And what else can you do? Like, I love you. You're one of my best friends. I'm going to try and murder you now.
That is definitely part of it. Do you incorporate anything else into your self-defense other than just jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, we do a couple things because it's, you know, I just can't. You can't have women walk in from their accounting job and be like, all right, get on the ground, and I'm going to put you on full guard, and now you're going to be in a triangle. Like, you got to ease them in. You got to give them something to work towards that isn't as scary as just, you know, a rear naked choke from the very beginning. We have, you know, how when you're talking about art, and you're like, if you steal it from one person, it's called, you know, when you take somebody's work and then you copy it, what's it called?
Mm-hmm. I'm having a brain fart moment right now. I'm completely undoing my antithetical prowess by forgetting this word. But I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
Plagiarism.
Yes, okay. So plagiarism, we take it from one person. If you take it from a bunch of different sources, it just makes you a collaborative artist. That's what we try to do. When we're on the ground, we are doing 10 strategies to 100%. But we have gone and taken some other classes, and I've watched other self-defense that sometimes I agree and sometimes I don't, but I really like stuff like teaching women how to break out of when somebody brought. People find that incredibly empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, just one second. I have a call coming in, and I don't want it to interrupt what we're saying.
Okay.
So I'm just going to let it ring. And that it's a good way to show women the power of how strong they are without having to lift weight or learn how to fight. So if you teach a woman how to break away from when somebody grabs your wrist, well, first of all, it applies to most women's life. If most women who have ever been inside of a bar or a concert or someplace where there's a lot of people and there's probably drink, we have all been grabbed by a guy, and we did not want to be grabbed. So showing women how to get out of that specific situation, you see a light go off behind their eyes. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Seriously, somebody grabs my wrist and I can get away from that? Because a lot of women don't know that they can. So that's actually where we usually start, is showing them how to break out of wrist holds. And then another thing that I was working on with the lady that came to me today, the burlesque dancer. I showed her what to do with somebody's hand if they grab her butt. So it's stuff like that, things that maybe men wouldn't think about it being an issue, but almost every woman that I know has experienced that.
That's an interesting point. That's actually something I haven't thought of. So, yes, I hear what you're saying.
It's a good way to ease women in. We can do it standing up, and then by the time I take them to the ground and start off with some basics on the ground, they feel like a badass. They're already feeling how powerful they are. And then we do something like we go to the ground, and we show them something very simple. You put them on the ground, and you show them how powerful, like a hip thrust is. So you have your partner sit on top of you at full mount. You bring your hips up to your butt, and you do a simple hip thrust, and you send them flying. You prepare them to catch them, though, obviously. But that, again, I've seen women, like, the light go off behind their eyes. I had one woman come in, and she was like, I'm like 57, and I can't, I'm not strong enough to do any of this. I want to be here and support you guys. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but get on your back. And then she said to another woman flying across the mat, and she was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was like, yes, everybody can do this. You don't need to you don't need to lose 20 pounds or go lift weights or be 15 years younger or 5 inches taller. That's that is the beauty of what we can show women what they do with their bodies.
Nice, and that's really important. I think there are three things that human beings need to kind of feel comfortable or confident in to be kind of just emotionally and mentally healthy, and that's comfort in the ability to protect yourself, comfort in the ability to access resources, and comfort in the ability to be attractive to a mate. And being able to knock down one of those necessities is really, really important, I think. I think not only from a physical standpoint, but just also as your sense of well-being as a person, that you have autonomy over yourself.
I totally agree. I think, well, those are three really good things. Tell me again what they are.
For me, I think it's the ability to protect yourself, physically be able to protect yourself, the ability to access resources. So in modern times, that'd be money, or in older times, that might be, the ability to hunt or farm, and the ability to attract a mate.
Oh, those are good. Just pretty much cover it. I'm with you.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Thank you. As a woman, do you think it's important to train with men as well? I think there's definitely some very obvious benefits to having like a women's only class, but what are your thoughts on training with men as well, especially if you're training for self-defense?
For sure. Okay, so I think women's classes are good as a starting point if you are not comfortable training with men. And the only reason I think a woman should ever only train in a women's only class is if, like, let's say her religion doesn't allow her to ever train with men.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only excuse that I think is acceptable to, at some point, moving on to training with men. The obvious benefit of training with men is the strength and the body size difference. You will never know what it feels like to compete against a man unless you compete against a man. You can take I'm 130 pounds. Put a 130-pound man in front of me or a 130-pound woman, the strength difference is going to be astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
It's the truth. I'm not a scientist. I can't explain all of the mechanics and how it works. I'm guessing with testosterone. I don't know. But it is a real thing and it exists. And so if you are training for self-defense, you absolutely need to be under somebody who's at least 15 pounds heavier than you, with your elbow in your throat and figuring out how your body and your brain is going to react to that moment. Because no woman will ever be able to recreate that for you.
Right.
But I think it's also good. I think that's why I have personally grown the way that, as much as I have in this sport. Well, first of all, there were no women available to me to train over the years. Like, if I only waited till women came in and trained, then there were probably months at a time that I wouldn't have gotten any training partners to train with. So it's, first of all, it's not practical if you are in this sport, especially if you're outside of Los Angeles or one of the bigger cities. I follow a lot of women's groups on Facebook, and I can't tell you how much women complain that they don't have training partners their size or available to them. So you have to, if you're in this sport, you are 100% training with men. That's just what it is. So if you're not training.
Right.
I think it's a good thing because I think it does great things for your training and your understanding of the sport and your understanding of your body and how you respond to that. I also think it's really good for the men because it teaches them that we're not porcelain, we're not glass. You can definitely fight us, but that once you hit a certain level bigger than me, well, now you have to rely on your technique because of course you can outpower me. So it's a good lesson for both of us.
No, that's.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And one more point. The other point is being humble. It's part of jiu-jitsu. Everybody gets their ass kicked, and it's really good for men. On top of it, yes, I want you to get your testosterone out, and I want you to feel like a badass. So if you're coming in and you're feeling like you're better than everybody on the map, and it's your second day, I certainly want you to get tapped out by a 115-pound girl. So that's part of it. Like, you learn to respect the sport. You learn to respect the skill that we all have.
There's a quote, I forget exactly who said it. It's a jiu-jitsu quote, and it's along the lines of, the beauty of jiu-jitsu is it teaches women how strong they can be and teaches men how little their strength can mean.
Yes, I love that quote. I know exactly what it is. Yeah.
I don't want to take... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah?
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I know that quote, and I totally agree with it. I think it benefits everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially if men don't have a lot of interaction with women outside of dating, it's really important to have teammates that are women. And it's important for both women. Like, to have the thing that there is no sexual contact is a really, I think, gift. There's so many gifts that come along with the sport, and I think that's one of them, is that we have this community that is really about equal ground and us loving this thing, and so we have that, and we don't need to be worried about any pretenses that come with it.
Right. Just the last couple of things. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Fine.
Okay, cool. What would you say would be some maybe tips or advice to women who are training with men for the first time and vice versa? Maybe some things to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think it's the tips that go across the board, which is, are we talking about MMA or just jiu-jitsu?
Either or, wherever you want to take it, whatever you feel more comfortable with.
I think striking is a different animal. You know what I mean? Striking with anybody, regardless of size difference, but especially if your partner's smaller than you, that's all technique. Like, you can hurt them. The same with jiu-jitsu. Worry about the technique. You guys can be a badass. It's like being a dancer. You have to learn how to do the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then once you master that, you can put the flair and, like, with your hips and all that kind of stuff. But you've got to do it. So, like, first of all, it's just the body. I think people need to get over. Like, oh, put her in the full guard and put my hands on her chest because then that's weird. Like, it's only weird when you make it weird and when somebody else behaves inappropriately. Same thing for the women. It's only weird when you make it weird. So, like, first of all, get over the fact that it's just the body and we're in close proximity. And I'm much more concerned with being, armbarred or put to sleep or having somebody's sweat drop in my mouth than I am about being in close proximity to a man's body. So there's that. And also, treat everybody as teammates. In the very beginning, when everybody's white belt was just spazzing the hell out, the same rules apply to everybody. Chill out, learn how to breathe, and learn the technique. Right.
Okay.
Your only job is to survive. Your only job is to not die for the next hour. Learn how to do that, and then you get to beat somebody up.
Okay. And last question, are there any tips or any things that you have incorporated into your training that you have noticed like really helped you move to the next level, that somebody who might be fresh to MMA or fresh to jiu-jitsu could incorporate in their regimen that would really help boost their game?
Yeah. I just turned 40 this year, and man, if you don't treat your body like the machine that it is, at some point your body's gonna be like, hey, you want me to perform like this? If you want me to perform like this or that, you gotta put high octane fuel in. So that's number one. Like, we have to treat our bodies the way that it is, and we don't recover as fast when we get older. But really, the trick to jiu-jitsu, the trick to any martial art and combat sport is what any coach will tell you: show up every day. There's no shortcuts. There's no way that you are going to skip the process. The process is showing up and getting the reps in. The guys who do the 1,000 reps with the one submission is the one you got to worry about. Not to do the practice twice.
Right.
Show up. That's the trick.
All right. Fair enough, man. This was a really fun interview. I had a good time. We should do this again one day. Thank you very much for calling in.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you on that therapy sometime.
Hell yeah. Just let me know.
It'll be a lot of fun. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
It was. Thank you for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.